The Ames members of the Citizens Climate Lobby are pleased to join all of you in opposition to this latest proposed insult to our state. Many activists cite the BP disaster in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010 as either their political awakening or the moment that they realized they absolutely had to win their various battles against extreme energy. The disaster became the largest accidental marine oil spill in history. A state-of-the-art offshore oil rig exploded, killing 11 workers, while oil gushed from the ruptured wellhead a mile below the surface and continued for another several months. The investigations and lawsuits that followed revealed that a desire to save money had played an important role in creating the conditions for that accident. BP, Halliburton, and Transocean put profits before precautions. They let dollar signs drive a culture of risk-taking that led to an unacceptable outcome. 10 days after crews stopped the gush of oil in the Gulf of Mexico, a 41-year-old pipeline owned by a company called Enbridge, based in Calgary, Alberta, burst in Michigan, causing the largest onshore oil spill in U.S. history. The pipe ruptured in a tributary of the Kalamazoo River and quickly contaminated more than 30 miles of waterways and wetlands with over 1 million gallons, 20,000 barrels of oil. Like BP, Enbridge had put profits before basic safety. It turned out that Enbridge had known as early as 2005 that the section of pipeline that failed was corroding, and by 2009, the company had identified 329 other defects in that line stretching through southern Michigan that were serious enough to require immediate repair under federal rules. The $40 billion company was granted an extension and applied for a second one just 10 days before the rupture. 3 days after the initial disaster, an estimated 180,000 gallons of oil were still sitting on the bottom of the Kalamazoo River. The accident was one of 3 outages that summer for Enbridge, raising questions about the safety of pumping crude oil through the United States. Federal data show 49 spills since 2002 on 1,800 miles of Enbridge pipelines in Minnesota. Most were considered minor spills, though in 2002, an Enbridge line ruptured near Cohasset, Minnesota, a few miles from Grand Rapids, spilling more than 250,000 gallons of crude oil. I'm giving you this to demonstrate that pipelines are not foolproof. According to Wikipedia, which lists pipeline spills by year going back to at least 2000, there were 36 documented spills in the U.S. in 2013 and 25 documented pipeline spills in the U.S. this year. Here are a few other examples reported by Timothy Gardner in Reuters News Service. September 29th, 2014, Tesoro Logistics LP pipeline spill was the biggest leak in South Dakota since 1 million barrels of saltwater brine, a byproduct of oil production, leaked from a well site in 2006. March 29th, 2014, ExxonMobil's Mayflower pipeline ruptured in a suburban neighborhood in Arkansas, forcing residents from homes. It spilled some 5,000 to 7,000 barrels of heavy crude from Canada. June 2012, Enbridge shut its 345,000 barrels per day Athabasca pipeline after 1,400 barrels of oil spilled in northeast Alberta. July 2011, ExxonMobil's Silvertip pipeline leaked 1,500 barrels of crude into the Yellowstone River after heavy flooding in that region. Closer to home, in 2010, a 70-foot length of sanitary sewer line that crosses under Squaw Creek here in Ames was broken during a flood that occurred in August. The break was not discovered for more than a month, and in a state with frequent flooding, can the Public Utilities Board or Energy Transfer Partners guarantee that this new oil pipeline that will cross dozens of streams like Squaw Creek and larger rivers such as the Des Moines and the Mississippi will be flood-proof? Undoubtedly, a greater risk to people and the environment are the virtual pipelines that are being used to transport Bakken oil, the railroads. Russell Gold reported in Wall Street Journal in December 3rd, just a week ago, it finds that rail transport of oil is largely hidden from the public. Finding locations of oil-filled trains is difficult, even in states that don't consider the information top secret. I'm sure that you will hear from the proponents of this pipeline through Iowa that it is much safer to transport oil by pipeline than by rail. They are probably correct, but that does not lessen the risk of the pipeline. The oil industry would like us to believe that it is an either-or decision. The dangers of global warming are even greater. This pipeline is just another spigot for fossil fuels to further contaminate the atmosphere. A decision to stop global warming is a decision to leave the oil in the ground. Well, I'd like to close by saying freeing our country from the inherent harms of fossil fuels should be a goal for all Americans.